Breaking news for you. It seems that federal forces, Ethiopian federal forces, some contingents of the Ethiopian federal forces have arrived in Tigray. Where, how, when, what is the significance of it? Welcome to my views and news. Thanks for watching the channel. Two main news stories in this video. First news story is about the arrival of Ethiopian federal forces in Tigray. Second news story is about growing Chinese influence in American neighborhood. China and US. Let's have a look at this news story first. China and US are two global superpowers, economically, militarily too, though in terms of number and quality of weapons, Americans are ahead of the Chinese, but Chinese keep their capabilities hidden. We saw display of Chinese capabilities during recent Pakistan, India escalation. Some people said, Sajid, you just support Pakistan. That is why you talk about the superiority of Chinese weaponry used by Pakistan. No, I don't. I don't support anyone. I think there's no point of making videos if you cannot tell the truth. I speak the truth. I don't care about consequences. But neutral observers, those people who monitor wars, neutral observers, they spoke about the weaponry, the comparison of weaponry used by Chinese, used by Pakistan and Indian forces. You can consult them too, and you would reach the same conclusion. Chinese actually keep their capabilities intact and hidden, not intact. But Chinese are expanding their influence globally. In 2013, they announced Belt and Road Initiative. China wanted to expand its trade and infrastructure links through this project. Around 150 countries are part of this Belt and Road Initiative, and Chinese companies have been building roads, linking trade routes through these projects in Asia, in Africa, and in American neighborhood too. Colombian president has signed a deal with his Chinese counterpart in Beijing today about Belt and Road Initiative. We can call Colombia American neighborhood, though Colombia is in South America, but the USA has immense influence in South American countries too. So the Chinese are expanding their economic influence in the American neighborhood. By the way, Panama withdrew from Belt and Road Initiative earlier this year. It was said that it was because of American pressure that China, that Panama withdrew from the project. But Colombia seems to be standing with China. Why? Because these countries need investments. Chinese are willing to invest, especially in infrastructure projects. That is why these countries are signing agreements with China about Belt and Road Initiative. Now back to main topic. Federal forces have arrived in Tigray. Weeks ago, I did a video, if you remember, when discussions were ongoing about the appointment of new president of Tigray. Getachew had been removed. New president had not been appointed. Talks were underway between TPLF and federal government, between Varade and PM Abiy. Some meetings had been held too. I said back then that federal government had laid out a condition, among other conditions, that federal forces will be deployed to Tigray. And I said that Varade agreed to it. where they signed 8-point agreement, 8-point document with the federal government. There is no mention of the deployment of federal forces in that document, but that document is clear. It talks about protecting Ethiopian national sovereignty, territorial integrity. Technically, Tigray cannot say no to the deployment of federal forces. It's part of Ethiopia. But that point was not mentioned in that agreement. But reportedly, where they agreed with the federal government that federal forces could be deployed to Tigray. I don't know about the number they agreed on. So I confirmed yesterday, then I got a confirmation this morning. Federal forces have arrived in Tigray. How many? How many soldiers? From which force are they? How big is this deployment? How did they arrive in Tigray? Well, the federal forces arrived in Tigray by road. And they are Ethiopian federal police members, not ENDF, Ethiopian Federal Police. They arrived in Tigray by road through southern Tigray. Southern Tigray, Lamata, Koram, Meoni Machio, Lamata, Koram, and Kaviha is the name of the neighborhood where these federal police officials were seen. Kaviha is the neighborhood where Alula Banega Airport is situated, Makale Airport. It's in the outskirts of Makale city. How many buses, vehicles entered Kaviha from southern Tigray? Well, what we have learned is that several hundred federal police members arrived in Makale yesterday. Now, question is, what is the reason behind this deployment of federal forces to Makale? Either the deployment is at the airport. Federal police, intelligence agencies, ENDF units are deployed at all airports in Ethiopia. Airports are controlled by federal forces. At Makale Airport, too, there is deployment of federal forces. When Getachew fled Makale through Makale Airport, he managed to flee because he entered airport under federal forces, so Tigray forces could not take back Getachew from federal forces. Either the federal forces have been deployed to Makale Airport, it's a rotation of the already deployed federal forces there, or Ethiopian government is beefing up the deployment of federal police at Makale Airport, keeping in view the tensions between TPLF and federal government, which could rise, especially if TPLF status is cancelled. Or the federal forces could be deployed in Makale city. All that remains to be seen. What we have been able to confirm is the arrival of federal police in Koviha neighborhood where Makale International Airport is located. How significant is this development? Well, Tigray has a standing army of 200,000 soldiers. Confirmed. Getachew last night confirmed that still Tigray has around 2,000 soldiers, standing army. So a few hundred or even a few thousand ENDF soldiers, even if they're deployed to Tigray, will be insignificant. Anytime, thousands of Tigray soldiers can overpower these ENDF soldiers. Maybe federal government is beefing up the deployment of federal police at the airport. But if the arrival of federal forces continues in Tigray, and if federal forces are deployed to border areas, to especially ENDF, to border areas, then it would mean that federal government wants to ensure that it has significant military presence in Tigray. Will that be acceptable to TPLF and Tigray military? I don't think so. They will only allow the symbolic presence of federal forces in Tigray. Thank you.